you notice the person's state at the beginning, and then you guide through a particular protocol, and then you observe, has the shift actually happened or not? Now, I think that all good therapists did that. People like Milton Erickson, Virginia Satir, Fritz Perls, they were doing that. They were very tuned in to each person's nonverbal experience. But NLP was really the first field that began to systematically teach people, train people how to do it in really precise ways.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Unplugged Podcast number 59. We are very lucky today. We have one of the legends in the NLP field, one of the original trainers, Connirae Andreas from Boulder, Colorado, Riverside him. Welcome, and Kallum will share with the world a little bit more about you.
Thank you so much,
Connor. Yeah, thank you so much. We have got a wonderful guest, as Connor mentioned today. We have the incredible Connirae Andreas joining us. If you've been around the NLP world, you'll know Connirae as one of the true pioneers. She's best known for her seminal work called the Core Transformation Process and the Wholeness work, a transformative method that helps people find deep inner peace and wholeness. She's also the author of several influential books of similar titles that have really shaped modern NLP practice. So stick around as we dive into the insights, her journey, and her wisdom. We're really looking forward to having you here with us on the pod. Thank you, Connirae, for joining us.
Well, I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I look forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. We love diving deep into the first a little bit about you as a person, and then how on earth you came across NLP, and a little bit about the early days. We love hearing about the early days. But before that, could you tell us a little bit about yourself in the early years? Were you always so interested in the mind, in behaviors, in transformations, or was it something that you sort of came across by chance as you grew up in life?
Well, I think there was some chance in it. I feel very fortunate that I encountered NLP right at the beginning of the field. And to get back to your question, it was sort of a lifelong passion of mine, even since being a kid, a young child. I somehow knew I wanted to find a way to live that was somehow better, happier. I always had that striving inside me, I guess. And then when I found NLP, I was in graduate school in clinical psychology. So I was intending to make that my profession. And shortly in the field, my husband and I, we were at a conference in California on Gestalt therapy and humanistic psychology. And in the middle of this conference, a colleague said, he tells us about this new field of NLP. And as he starts to describe it, both my husband and I, we weren't married yet, actually, but my partner, Steve, and I, we both thought this sounds pretty fascinating. So that was how we got connected. Then we found the first NLP workshop we could get to and showed up.
Wonderful. Well, in the early days, when you first heard about it, who was teaching it? Because there are a number of early pioneers in the field. Who was your introduction with?
My first introduction, and Steve's, my husband, went to a workshop with a man named Greg Brodsky, and he was one of the early teachers. And then he was also interested in, he was an skilled, shall we say, in Qigong and Tai. I guess mostly Qigong, I think is the right description. Anyway, He was interested in the Eastern energetic arts, but he got interested in NLP and quite skilled at it. So that was the first workshop, the first opportunity for us to learn. We learned 6-step reframing, anchoring, the basics we learned from him.
Yeah. So good.
And then after that, we made it a point to learn as much as we could from Richard and John, the developers, the original co-developers. And basically, anytime they were doing a training that was 4 days or more in length, anywhere in the country, we were there.
You were there. So are we talking late 70s, early 80s?
We learned about NLP in 77.
Oh, wow.
And
Great.
so, yeah, that's the late 70s when we were learning. Yeah. Yeah. And then there were excuse me, go ahead.
No, you're right. I was just really interested to hear that you and Steve went to NLP after you guys got married. So you guys obviously met a long time prior to that. Is that right? Were you guys together for long before you went to NLP together?
Yes. We were together we met in 1975.
Tell me a little bit about that. How did that happen?
Oh, we met when my husband had set up a conference, a Gestalt therapy. He was a Gestalt therapy trainer and expert and author, and Steve had published the books, the original Fritz Perls books, the ones that became popular, Gestalt Therapy Verbatim, and so on. He got those books through following Fritz around with a microphone, and transcribing his work and turning that into books. Wow. So that was Steve's work. He helped popularize Gestalt therapy by doing that. Wow. And then the two of us together had a similar role with NLP. After we were into NLP a while, we started becoming aware that most of the books that are already out there are quite technical in how they're written. Most people will never read this, So we thought that it was Steve's idea first. He'd already done this once, but I immediately signed on. And yes, this is a good idea. I want to be a part of this. And I think because we made a good team from the beginning. And so I think the products of everything we did was better because the two of us was working. We were both working together on it, and providing a different perspective. And he would do one thing and I'd be going, okay, we can improve it here. I'd be doing one thing and he'd be going, no, we can improve it here. So we would improve each other's work and refine it and come out with something better. But I guess
so back to your question. You met professionally first and then that relationship developed. Is that right? Or
we met, the conference in Estes Park was for professionals and also a lot of individuals, people just wanting personal growth. Gestalt therapy was spread through, shall I say, the masses?
Yes.
It wasn't just spread through therapy. It was made accessible to people who are interested in personal growth. So that conference was attended by professionals and lay people, both. And that's where we officially met, but where we connected really was Steve did a small workshop after the conference down in Denver. And I had a friend. I had just moved to Boulder days before that conference, literally only days before. Then I go to the conference in Estes Park, close to my new home in Boulder, and meet Steve. And then I ended up at a workshop he did in Denver that is for a small group. That's where we really connected.
Oh, beautiful. It's
fascinating.
It's incredible to hear that Steve was following people around, following Fritz around with the microphone, and that's how the work got popularized. And then you guys met because of that body of work, and then, like you said, you were consistently improving each other's work, and look at what you've created together. It's amazing.
Did you know? I have a question. In the early days, because you came from a traditional, field as such, psychology, and here at NLP, which would have been quite new age at the time, I would assume. How did you know that you wanted to, I guess, invest your life into this new field?
Well, I didn't decide all at once.
I bet.
At first, I was just curious, I was interested. And what Steve's colleague was telling us about it sounded fascinating. And I thought, and Steve thought too, we both thought, if this is true, we want to know more.
Yes.
It sounded very promising that you could have specific protocols that, step-by-step procedures that could reliably and dependably help people change sometimes lifelong habits or feelings or emotions that they're stuck with. This sounded really good to be able to do this. And then also, he was already telling us about how NLP was anchored to experience. It wasn't just a theory. It wasn't just you share ideas, give some good advice, and then you hope you hope some of it sinks in and somehow it does some good later. Maybe you hope, it's more about you notice the person's state at the beginning, and then you guide through a particular protocol, and then you observe, has the shift actually happened or not? Now, I think that all good therapists did that. People like Milton Erickson, Virginia Satir, Fritz Perls, they were doing that. They were very tuned in to each person's nonverbal experience. But NLP was really the first field that began to systematically teach people, train people how to do it in really precise ways.
So would you, in your mind, you just mentioned Fritz Perl, Milton Erickson, Virginia Satir had very good sensory, we'll call it sensory acuity. And would you say that in the early days, it was highly intuitive? They had the skill set, but it was the intuition that came with it that made them the greats that they were?
I'm not inside their mind, so I can't say for sure. My sense is that it was part intuition, but excuse me, I think I have time for.
That's okay.
With Milton Erickson, it was very clear that he was operating in a very precise way. He knew what he was doing. A lot of what he was doing, he could explain, and some of it he did explain. But a lot of it he did not. And so he never really mapped out in the way we have mapped out through NLP, the systematic protocol, so that it becomes something anyone could do, even if they don't have Milton Erickson's decades of experience. Do you think his artistry and intuition as well. So I think it was a combination for people like that. Some people operated more strongly out of just intuition. They were their conscious minds were clueless what they were doing.
Right. Yeah.
Their unconscious kind of knew how to get results, and so they followed their intuitions. And with Milton Erickson, I think he was pretty aware.
That was my question, because I've often thought about, the intuition. Some of what you're doing intuitively is based on the knowledge, wisdom, and experience that you've gathered over that period of time when you've worked with clients, or when you've, had different situations arise, and some of them are maybe, connected together through some sort of analogical similarity. And therefore the unconscious mind, we'll call it the unconscious mind, kicks in and goes, well, that's similar to that. And this is also attributed to something I learned over here, so I'm going to do this. So do you think that for Milton Erickson, his intuition was somewhat an unconscious process, that he was, I guess, unconsciously competent of what he was doing, and therefore wasn't aware of how to unpack that process, but there was definitely something that could be unpacked if we, I guess, took him through the NLP modeling process?
Yes, if I understand your question right. Also, I just want to be really clear. I do not presume to be able to understand really understand how Erickson was thinking, but I did have the privilege. One of the biggest privileges of my life was that I was able to spend 2 weeks with Dr. Erickson before he died. And the last time I visited him for a week, it was within the last year of his life. And in retrospect, I believe he was at his very best then. He was already he had already stopped seeing a lot of individual clients. In fact, when I was there, he made a joke out of how his license to see individual clients had expired, and so he couldn't work with anyone privately. But he was still holding these teaching seminars for therapists to be like me. I was in the graduate program in clinical psychology at that time, and so I was accepted. And other people, he was only taking people who either had degrees in the field of therapy or were in a program. So my impression is he really wanted to, as much as possible, pass on what he could to the next generation of healers. And I have deep gratitude just thinking about that. I just feel this open-hearted gratitude for Milton Erickson and what he did for me personally, as well as many other people, because what I experienced there was something beyond what I thought could be possible. And this is why I think that Erickson was at his very best right there at the end of his life, because most of the cases that he talks about in his books and in his teaching seminars and that other people describe, most of them, people say, yeah, my life changed, maybe changed really, really, really for the better. But mostly people don't describe the kind of shift that I experienced. So it made me wonder, I think that at his very end of his life, he was tapping into a deeper level of change than ever he had done. If you watch Erickson, the earlier videotapes of Erickson, I don't know, have you watched early Erickson?
Yeah.
What I can get on YouTube, yes.
Yeah. So early Erickson videos, once my husband showed me some early Erickson, as I call it. And he said, I want you to see this, Connirae. He shows me the videos and I'm going, what? Because I'm going, no, that's not my Milton Erickson, It seemed like it was a completely different person. And it was a much more rigid, much more authoritarian person. And, he was putting someone in a trance and he was being effective, but he was being quite, I'm not sure what words can I use to say that
all words. We've had some characters on our podcast.
You could say kind of, just authoritarian. I think it's just like taking control, making things happen. Very forceful, kind of very imposing. And of course, what I learned then is that's the hypnosis that he had been taught. That was the hypnosis. It wasn't like he invented that authoritarian mode, but that's what other people were doing. And that's what he had been taught, but he was doing it too. And I found it kind of offensive because it was completely different than the Erickson that I met. And then if you watch him over time, he evolves personally. I can see that this is another way in which I think he's a good model for me, for maybe all of us, is that he continued to grow and evolve throughout his life. And you can see that if you watch his different videos over time. He became more permissive as time went on. They called it permissive, more utilizing instead of imposing. And then the kind of shift that I experienced, though it went to a different level of change, is the only way I know how to talk about it. It went to beyond fixing problems, way beyond fixing problems. It's to shifting the kind of being that we are, our just mode of being in the world. And so I went in there. I walked in at the beginning of that week, and my husband didn't like it when I described myself this way, but I think it's true to just say that I was just walking in as a neurotic graduate student,
Yeah.
And I consider being a neurotic, kind of semi-neurotic person, that's kind of the typical state. I was walking around with concerns about pleasing other people. Am I doing things right? Is this going to be good enough? Is my life worth anything? These kind of, and will other people be happy with me? Will somebody else like me or not like me? Am I doing a good job? I was going around with these kind of worries and concerns, sort of semi-unconsciously percolating. I would never have admitted this.
Yes.
But and I maybe wasn't even fully aware of it, because this was just my ongoing state, to be kind of concerned what other people were thinking. At the end of the week, though, when I walked out, I had this feeling, and it happened in a split second. All of a sudden, something washed over me, but I know he had been setting me up the whole week. There were
He'd been priming you.
indications. I know he was setting me up.
Yeah.
It wasn't just so. But when that shift happened, I felt this well-being, extreme well-being. It's not just having a good day well-being. It's this kind of well-being where I knew that everything was fine. I was fine. It couldn't be otherwise. Everything was going to be fine. That's just the nature of things. It felt like I was experienced that as the truth about reality.
Wow.
Just everything is fine. I'm fine. You're fine. And that was different. Really different for me.
I'd like to dig in just a little bit more, because I find this fascinating and really interesting, because I've watched people go through what we call in Australia the breakthrough session. And what tends to happen after, several of those, they do seem to like drop into this new state, almost like the only way I can describe it is that, all the things that are not them have been cut away, and they're left with like a true self, or at least be in alignment with a higher self. I know you didn't describe it in that way, but is that kind of where you were alluding to? Because it sounds like it was more than just like a, patterns of behavior or things that
I think we could describe it that way. And I wouldn't describe it as a higher self, because that implies a split between a higher and a lower.
Right.
And as if the higher is better. Usually the higher there's assumptions that higher is better and lower is not so good. So I would maybe use a little different, but I think you're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Callum. Yeah.
How would you describe it if not the highest? I understand what you mean about the, you don't want to separate creative
and
dichotomy.
For me, it feels like also not a breakthrough, but more a relaxing into.
Right.
And this gets into the methodology that sort of came to me later on then, which might have similarities, or maybe it's completely different. I don't know, than what you are speaking of. It feels like a relaxing into the truth of who one already is. And it feels very embodied, more present. And this is, now I'm shifting over to describing the shifts someone gets through wholeness work. And
let's talk about it. This is a good segue.
Okay. Because this is a little different than the shift I experienced through Milton Erickson. When I worked with Milton Erickson, and at the end of the week I felt that shift, it helped me with the life, the big life question that was in my face at the moment, which was whether or not to get married to my partner, Steve, or go our separate ways. That was the question I walked into the week with. And at the end of the week, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew it was handled. And then over the next few weeks, it became clear to me what to do. And I don't need to go into that whole story, but basically, the choice became, it was one of the cleanest choices I've ever made in my life. I didn't feel like I was worried about would Steve agree with me or not. It was, I wanted him to make his own best choice and me make my own best choice. And we just see if the two of us fit together, in terms of our long term. It felt really clean and really mutually respectful.
Yeah. You said you walked in neurotic, and it sounds like you walked out just with this knowing calm that everything's going to be okay.
Yes, exactly. And that shifted how I, made my decisions, how I was moving through life. But the only problem with it was it didn't last. So it didn't last. It started unraveling. At the time, I thought, this feels permanent. It feels like, it feels like I now understand the nature of things, and how could it ever be different? But it didn't last. And after a few months, I was back to my old, what I call more neurotic reactions of being concerned about what other people would think, and, and feeling embarrassed by certain things, or, whatever. So when it didn't last, that's what set me on a search that led both to core transformation, and then in the end, it led to wholeness work also.
Perfect.
Not quite directly.
Can we connect the dots from your trainings in NLP leading to core transformation, and then wholeness work?
Yes. Thank you. Well, so I was excited to get involved with NLP, and we were learning, and then we started developing. So we were learning the classic NLP, then we started developing. As we understood what was known, we started modeling ourselves, developing things like the GREEP process, the mapping out timelines. We were starting to model different areas, I guess, and developing some of our own formats, adding to what was out there. But through all of this, I had the experience that I can use these methods with other people and get results. I can teach them to other people and get results. But for me, myself, they don't seem to work. And that was very disappointing. I kept trying, use the 6-step reframing, or the this or the that, and try to shift my own experience. And it didn't seem to stick. It didn't even seem to make a difference oftentimes with me. So it made me wonder a little bit if everybody else was just making it up or not, but they seemed sincere, So I believed them. Okay, they're getting results, but somehow I'm a more difficult client. And I remember even when I was in a graduate school, and I went to the psych clinic not the psych clinic. It was the counseling center, the student counseling center, because some of my colleagues, the other students, and we were all there studying clinical psychology, but we all knew we also needed our own changing. Pretty much all of us were aware of that, even though we hated to admit it,
Yeah. I think that's most people that study psychology.
So I went like everybody else. There's this funny story that a colleague, an acquaintance that I know from another field, not from NLP, but he told me this story that his mentor told him. That I thought, this is cute. He said, my mentor told me when I was studying, some people need therapy once a week. Some people need therapy once a day. But if you need therapy pretty much multiple times of every day, then you just have to become a therapist.
That's funny.
So I thought, I like this person's sense of humor and wisdom, the wisdom that's in that. So yeah, there's this kind of awareness that we all have a need and desire, really, to change and to get the benefits for ourselves. But so I went to the counseling center because some of my co-students, the others in my program, were saying, you should go see this counselor. He's really good. I've gone to see him and he's great. So I went. And after a number of sessions, I don't know how many, he looked at me and he said, I'm doing the same things with you that I do with other people, and it works with other people, but it's just not working with you. Okay. And I'm going, oh, that's kind of disappointing to hear. But it was true. So Milton Erickson was the first person who could get a really significant shift in my experience. And I'm going, okay, there's no doubt about it. I experienced change. And I thought, but then it fell apart. So am I answering your questions about how this? So I thought, okay, nothing in NLP can touch me the way that did, Milton Erickson did.
Hi there, this is Conor and Kallum from Connect Coaching. Hope you are enjoying the Unplugged Podcast. Nothing lights us up more than seeing businesses thrive, especially in uncertain times. we have 32 combined years of doing nothing but mentoring and training businesses from around the globe in order to increase their revenue and thrive in uncertain times. So what we would like to do is share with you a little bit about what we've discovered over the last 32 years.
We've created this amazing business model called the Forever Business Model, and we want to give it to you for free. All you need to do is jump down into the description below. There's a link there called Steal Our Forever Business Model. Click on the link. There's a 9-minute video that you can watch where we unpack everything you need to know to implement it in your business right away.
Got it.
Nothing that we have mapped out in NLP so far can get that kind of deep level change. So I'd like to find a way to do it. And in the end, I ended up, I gave myself the assignment. I thought, okay, I'm harder. I have an easier time getting results with other people. So maybe it'll be easier for me to find this method if I work with other people. And I put out the word that I wanted to work with anyone who had their life's biggest issue. They had tried everything they could, including NLP, not NLP. They tried everything and nothing had worked.
So you wanted the most difficult client you could get your hands on.
Yes.
Okay,
the
good.
most difficult client who wasn't me is what I was going for.
But not
And
you.
then, So then I said to them, the only thing I'm going to guarantee you ahead of time is that I won't use anything that I know to do. So they knew me as an NLP trainer and an expert. I'm not going to do anything I know to do. So don't expect that.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I'm going to guarantee you is, I'll do nothing that I know how to do, and you can leave when you have what you want. So that's what I told them. And that's how it turned out. And then I'd laugh, because I was kind of half serious, but I mean, I was serious. The intention in that was to go, we are really going to, we're going to open ourselves to real change here.
Nice.
And we're going to see what happens. And between you and me together, let's find out how to make magic happen.
Good.
So then with the first person.
Sorry to Connirae, we actually have a client for you here. The client for this session has just turned up and said hello. That's a joke.
Have a client for me.
No, that's a joke. Kallum's little daughter, Ollie.
Maybe she can be the teacher.
Yes, they are the best teachers.
Her mummy obviously
we
doesn't
have
know
a lot
she's up
that
here.
we can learn from the state of these little ones.
I might just have
I'm
to
sorry,
quickly-
I cut you off there, Connirae. So
okay.
you had your client. You said, I'm not going to do anything that's NLP based. So what do you do?
I'm not going to do anything that I know how to do. NLP, what I've learned in graduate school, nothing that I know how to do, because nothing that I know how to do goes deep enough for me. So I'm going to find something deeper. and you can go home when you have what you want.
And what happened?
And of course, I would not have kept them overnight or anything.
There's still one in the basement.
There's still one in the Exactly. So with the very first person who showed up, I was really slowing things down, and the NLP people who are listening will understand what I mean when I'm saying this. But what I started with was really carefully listening to each word the person said. I wrote it down, and I processed the presuppositions and assumptions in every word and every phrase the person said, so that I was very clear on the assumptions, presupposition. Then I created my response, and I was very aware of precisely each word and the impact that it was likely to have. Every single word. And that slowed down the conversation a bit. But I was used to doing this, so it didn't slow it down a lot. I could do this pretty quickly. So then, as I found myself going I wasn't thinking about it as 6-step reframing, but I found myself going in a similar direction, but deeper. And with changing the language in certain specific ways, like I only realized this looking at it later, because I wasn't trying to do 6-step reframing. I was trying to go to a deep level of change and opening myself to that. So I went with the wording that came to me, and it came out a little differently than the way we teach 6. But the differences made a difference. And then
Yes.
and then the particular way of guiding someone led them very quickly to what I ended up calling a core state. And when I saw that, this looked like what I'd experienced in Erickson's office. It was that kind of well-being, that kind of deep well-being, kind of peace, presence, love, oneness, whatever we want to call it. But it's the magic, the magic is there.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw it, I knew what needed to happen next. And I didn't think about it. I knew what needed to happen next. And it was a certain kind of reversal where what we had opened to could radiate into each sphere of the person's life that was related. It was so doing this method, it guides the resource, if we could call it that, or this different way of being through the life context, the exact life context where it's related or tied to. And so we did that. And then and then it was one of the next clients that I added on the parental timeline re-imprinting piece, because I saw that for them, the state wasn't quite as strong. It didn't seem to spread as easily. So I added that, and that helped to amplify the shift. So those of you not familiar with core transformation, you can find it all in this book.
Good. Buy the book. Connirae
Or
and Steve
if
Andreas.
you want to get it easier, you can just go to our website at andreasnlp.com and look under resources, and you'll see a free guided introductory experience.
Amazing. So with core transformations, this is I'm not going to use, the word sledgehammer came to my head, but that's not in an aggressive sledgehammer, but it goes deep. It's like if someone
I think what you're going for is it gets a big effect, right?
Yeah.
A gentle sledgehammer.
A gentle sledgehammer.
Yeah, exactly. It's the effect of gentleness. And I think through core transformation, and then even more strongly through wholeness work, I came to really, really experience the truth of how any real change cannot happen through force or imposition. The real lasting change happens through gentleness. It's that gentleness that actually gets the bigger results in the end.
It's interesting that you say that. Change can't be forced. It has to come at you in the right way and in a gentle way. And I feel like that's like a pre-programmed thing that's in nature, because if we could just force everybody to do what we wanted all the time, we might all be in some sort of
you're getting at. So I think, Kallum, what you're getting at is that work comes out of perhaps a different set of assumptions or presuppositions. In NLP, everyone on the call who's familiar with NLP, you're used to the presuppositions of NLP, right? Every behavior has a positive intent, the requisite variety, the person with the most flexibility, the most choices has the most likely to get results. And we could go down the list. But with what I began to realize, it took me a few years to really understand this. But both core transformation and wholeness work, they emerge from a different set of presuppositions.
Okay. Can you share?
A different set. And so it became important for me to be aware of it, because when people would try to combine either core transformation or wholeness work with classic NLP, and it was working with different kinds of presuppositions, and it would tend to dumb down. I'm going to just say it bluntly. It would tend to dumb down what these methods can do.
We want it straight up. So can you tell us a little bit more about what those different...
Could you share some?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sure. Some of it's all in this book, by the way. All 15 of them are in the back of this book. And it's the presuppositions, they don't sound that remarkable when you just hear them.
Yes.
But if you've gone through the training and then you go, oh yeah, I get that. I know that presupposition. That's how I experienced the work. But the new presuppositions include the idea of gentleness, that that real change change cannot happen through force. So with these deep change methods, we always find the easy way. So when you encounter resistance, there's always an easy path that the resistance is guiding you to. So that's one. Another of the presupposition is that we are already innately whole. And that's what I experienced in Erickson's office there, even though it didn't last. It's we're not creating a new state. So one of the, it reminds me of one of the NLP trainers who came through wholeness work training. And after the first training, she said to me, I never realized I've been an NLP trainer for years. I love it. But I never realized until now that my resource state, it was effortful. I never realized how much work I was having to put in to be in a resource state. And now with wholeness work, I'm tapping in, I'm experiencing just this effortlessness in going through life. I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to anchor in a research state or step into a better version of myself. It's like what's already there. I'm just relaxing into what's already there.
I love hearing this. Can you unpack your thoughts on why? Why do you believe, or why do you feel that gentle change is more effective than forced change?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that there may be times when, like I use the classic NLP techniques when I feel like that's what's needed, and perhaps it has to do with what I need right then, or what a client might need right then. So it has to do with phases of transformation and what a person is ready for. So sometimes it's just like with body work. Sometimes you need to get in and dig, and apply some force to kind of.
I love the expression, you catch more bees with honey. So Kallum, we're 100% on board. I love the fact that you've invested so much time in thinking and research in this way of change. And there are some people who do use very strong authoritative ways to create change. And yes, often it lasts as long as it does. And when someone generally feels congruent and aligned with the change and they've made their own decision, when people make their own decision, it's almost like they buy into it and much more because they were responsible for it, and it aligns with them. So
absolutely.
Curious about your thoughts on that.
Here's another way that I think about it. So here's a person, they want a certain kind of change. If it's done with force, it adds another layer of tension or constriction to their unconscious. It's like, okay, now I'm requiring and forcing myself to be a little different than I am so that I can get X result. Whereas if instead we find the constrictions that already exist, we relax those, then what happens? If we understand that we can trust that our basic nature is good, we don't have to, contort it, force it to be different in order to be okay. Instead, we find the force we're already imposing on ourselves. We help that relax and release. And then we just relax into this sort of naturalness of what is the fundamental goodness that's in the fundamental beauty. It's a good that's not opposed to anything. It's not good in contrast to bad. It's just kind of the basic isness, the basic beingness that we all are. It's a kind of goodness that doesn't have any opposing bad.
Yes.
Does that begin to? Am I making any sense here?
It does. It does.
Trust.
I had a funny experience.
All these questions.
I had a funny experience a couple of times throughout my 20s where, the only way I could describe it at the time was it felt like from a few books that I read, it felt like a spontaneous Kundalini experience where it kind of was like this ripping away of all of the belief systems that kind of were keeping me stuck where I was at the time. And I remember after it, for about 3 months afterwards, I would wake up with the words in my head, be kind and be gentle, like to yourself, basically. And it was because I was putting so much pressure and tension on myself to change, that I wasn't allowing really the change to happen, because that's not the place from which you do change from it. You change, like you said, in a gentle and peaceful way.
Yes. And I think, that sounds quite lovely. I just want to acknowledge that. And I think that a fair number of us, you, me, the listeners, a fair number of us have had that kind of experience somehow. For me, it happened. Erickson helped me along. And then for most of us, it doesn't necessarily endure. And so that's what I became sort of, shall we say, obsessed with or passionate about. Maybe passionate about is more accurate. I'm not sure which is, because, but I became very passionate about finding the way back to that kind of, I knew it was possible, but I didn't know how. And I now have an understanding, looking back on, why did that fall apart? Why didn't it just last? And I think I understand why now. Are you
speak
curious?
to that?
Yes,
do
share.
I think the reason it didn't last is because the way Erickson, and not that it was perfect for me. It was perfect. It was just what I needed, both having the experience and having it not lasting. But because then I was able to discover two paths that could help other people, could help anyone get there. And even after Erickson, you don't have to go sit in the office of some magician. You can follow the steps and have a reliable way to get there. So I'm thankful for how it unfolded. But I think the reason it didn't last is because Erickson was doing his thing of bypassing my conscious mind. So his way of doing hypnosis at that time, and he taught this very explicitly, you bypass the person's conscious mind because the conscious mind puts up lots of interference, confuse the hell out of the conscious mind, perhaps, excuse my, anyway.
That's okay. That's okay.
And then was with the unconscious out of the way, then you can access the unconscious. That's the idea. And then get some deep level change. So I think that's what he managed to do with me. There was this change. My conscious mind was clueless about what had happened. But the thing is, what that left me with was a conscious mind patterning, a set of conscious mind patterning that had not been transformed.
Yes.
So that conscious mind patterning that he was bypassing, that's what got me back to the old, we could say, neurotic or not just well-being, but, so the path, the interesting thing is that the wholeness work very, very explicitly, it doesn't bypass the conscious mind. We use our present moment experience, including conscious mind objections, resistances. We use those as the doorway. And then these become integrated rather than work around. You don't bypass them. You notice them, you integrate them. And with wholeness work, there's a very specific, precise, dependable way to do that. So it becomes a really reliable way to access more and more of that kind of well-being, but it's a well-being that lasts. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
I had to experiment with all this. I didn't know if it would last. When I started doing it with myself, I didn't know if it worked with anybody besides me. And with me, it was happening very, very slowly. But I noticed it was working.
Yes.
I noticed that the results were cumulative for me. So it started building the change. So the ability for me to release stress, just the natural releasing of stress. I had better sleep. I used it my sleep was terrible at the time. And it was just like a godsend in terms of helping me with sleep, with releasing stress, and with relationship reactivities that was still there for me. I did core transformation. I got some benefit from that, but I still had plenty of emotional reactivity in my relationship. So I found that I got dependable results with that, with wholeness work.
So with what you were saying before and just letting go as such, there's a big level of trust that has to take place. like trust yourself that you can get the result. A lot of people who have incongruencies about themselves and maybe not trust themselves do you find they find it more difficult, or is that not a factor at all?
It actually doesn't matter. It's fine for people to show up exactly how they are. And that's the only thing that's really important. That's what makes the difference. People don't have to trust anything. They don't have to, they can feel like, I'm the hardest person on the earth or whatever, like I felt about myself.
Yes.
You show up exactly like you are. What matters is being honest with what you just. So if I'm guiding someone, and I just had a client earlier today. It was quite beautiful, really a beautiful. She was new to wholeness work. She had been getting some really positive results with core transformation. She's struggling with some big challenges, and I'm not going to get into the detail because I don't want to violate privacy. She's struggling with some pretty big, and I decided let's just explore wholeness work. She was comfortable. I think she trusted me enough to be willing to experiment. That's all that it takes. Show up, experiment, say what's actually happening.
Be honest.
And she did those things.
Yeah.
And it was quite profound what she ended up experiencing through that.
Love hearing this. So core transformation, when was that created? And then with your newer work, is it newer work with wholeness? Is there a timeline that we can sort of conceptualize it in our heads?
Sure. Yes. So I first developed, I went to see Erickson in 1997. That was the last year of his life. I developed core transformation then. It took me a while. It was, 89. So about a decade later. And then I started teaching it in 1990. And then I had a life crisis in 97 when I felt like I thought I was dying. I really did. I'm not a very melodramatic person I always was learning by nature, I guess. I'm becoming more melodramatic now that I'm becoming more integrated. But I tended to be sort of mental about things. So but I thought I was dying. I really did. And I was experiencing this electricity going through my body 24/7. It I couldn't sleep. I literally could not think, it was like forcing my brain to make a phone call, pushing the buttons. It felt like walking on a broken leg, like doing something I shouldn't be doing.
Wow.
It was very weird. So I thought perhaps this is what dying is like,
How long did that last for? How long
Pardon?
did that last for? That experience, how long did that last for?
It lasted quite a while. And then it took from 97, I explored lots of things. I thought maybe, I had the thought, if I'm going to have a chance of surviving, I really have to let go of, I don't know where this thought came from, but somehow inside I knew I've got to let go of everything I think I know. Everything, really let go and be open to something new, different. I don't know what that is, but I was opening myself to not being a teacher. I thought I would never be a teacher again. If I managed to survive, I thought maybe I'd end up being a gardener or a nanny or a cook or something. I really did. I did, or maybe I would teach music lessons because I like music. I didn't expect to ever go back to teaching in the personal change area. I thought I'd be just lucky to survive, to live through this. But meanwhile, I started exploring in spiritual traditions, thinking, maybe there's some knowledge there that would help me. I have no idea. So I tried to find the teachings of people who were, I would find accounts of people who would describe their experiences. That's what I was most interested in. Not so much the theory, not the belief systems, but what was their experience? And then I noticed this Ramana Maharshi guy, who a lot of people had a lot of respect for. And he had this teaching, ask this, who am I meditation? And at some point, I won't go into the whole story because I I enjoyed my time sitting in spiritual circles and just kind of absorbing. I thought maybe I'm going to absorb this state by osmosis. If I just sit with these people, I'll catch on. But then gradually I started on occasionally doing experiments inside. I thought, okay, what is he talking about? What is he going for? What is the intention of that who am I meditation? And that led me to start a different kind of meditation inside that led to wholeness work. And, I don't know if you feel we still have time, but if you do, I'd be happy to guide the listeners in a short version of that if you'd like, or people
Please.
can find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
Yes. 100%.
Absolutely.
Cool. Because the very first thing is, who am I? That leads us to possibly meaning content. The students of Ramana Maharshi ended up thinking, okay, it must be an advanced meditation because only the really advanced students are getting value from this. It's not necessarily a reliable, dependable path to some kind of shift in state. So I started exploring and came to the exercise that I'll guide you in today. This is just
Fantastic.
the beginning. And then I'd like to share afterwards what this is the beginning of. And I'll give you a preview now. I ended up realizing it's not just about, like, Eastern spiritual teachers talk about dissolving the ego. And the Who Am I meditation is about dissolving the sense of ego and coming to this presence that just is, kind of like I experienced with Erickson and you described coming to also, Kallum. That was the intention, but I ended up discovering that it's not just about dissolving the ego. That's the first phase, and it's important to do that first if we want to get this deep level change. But then there are other universal structures of the unconscious that if we know what they are and how to find them and how to heal them, it makes a tremendous difference in terms of having deep level change. So
Awesome.
I have had many people tell me various versions of, I have an email here from somebody who said, she's actually from Australia. She gave me permission to share this, that she said, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it would take too long, but she said, basically, I was diagnosed bipolar 2. I have as that diagnostic category. I suffered debilitating depression and fear. I'd been trying so hard to relax and let go, but it never lasted. So she described how she'd tried all kinds of things before this. So she'd kind of come to the conclusion that she was just stuck with this and she'd do her best to manage it, And then she said, I ordered your books, recorded the meditation in my voice recorder, and practiced every morning. The changes were immediate. The simplicity of being aware, the relaxation and surrender would occur. So she goes into the whole thing a lot more, but she basically saying, now it was divine. Now that calmness is penetrating all of life and my days feel free, happy, and peaceful. I don't seem to worry about other people so much and what they think, like being in a wholesome, healthy bubble, simple and effortless.
Nice.
So, and there's more that she says, but I want to get to how this is helping quite a few people, both with simple changes, ordinary changes, like I just want to release stress. It helps with that. Or I just want to sleep better. Okay, it helps with that. But it also, there's the chance at least that it can help with some, what we might think of as really difficult or challenging issues. Okay, ready to explore now?
Yes, let's
Absolutely.
do it.
Okay. And this is just the first step of wholeness work, but it's all about experience, not about concepts. So we start with experience. All right. So the easiest way to do this, and it came to me, it's basically we shift over from who am I to where's the I located. And here's how, because if we're going to change the ego, let it go of it, dissolve it, whatever, the first thing we need to do is find it. And I figured that if we're going to find the ego, how are we going to find it? Well, if we realize the ego is the I, the experience of I am doing this, I'm doing that, we have this ongoing unconscious experience of I. And that's what we'll begin to find now. We'll begin to discover. Okay, easiest way to do this, just like take a moment, get comfortable wherever you are. And only do this if you're not driving or operating heavy machine.
Okay. Eyes open or closed, or is there a difference?
Inside. Yeah. So you can do it eyes open or eyes closed, but you can come back to this later if you're driving right now or operating some kind of machine where you need your attention on what you're doing. Okay. So maybe take a deep breath and then just checking inward. Notice any body sensation. Can be positive, negative, neutral, anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Okay, and I've noticed several. I'm going to do it. If you guys are comfortable doing it, you can share. So I'm noticing several things. I notice a slight feeling of tension behind my forehead. And I'm noticing also just the sensation where my back ribs touch the chair behind me. That's what pops in. Oh, and now I'm noticing, this is actually the most interesting one, a kind of a tingling around my ankles. Yeah. So if you notice more than one, pick any of them. It doesn't matter which one to do the exercise with. And I'm just going with the tingling around my ankles because I've never noticed that before. Okay. And do you want to share what each of you is picking to work with or explore?
Yeah.
I had my shoulder.
Here you go, Conor.
Yeah, go ahead.
My right shoulder sort of tingled.
Okay, my right shoulder tingled. Great. And then Kallum, what do you notice?
Yeah, I've got like a feeling it sort of feels like it's coming down the side of my face, and then it sort of goes up here.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, and each person listening with us, whatever you notice is fine. Just notice how much space it takes up. So for me, this place, the tingling around my ankles, that's like this glob. There's no distinct edges, but it's maybe 6 inches diameter. I know most of you don't use inches, so use whatever measurements you use. It'll be fine. And so the place around the shoulder, just notice its extent, and the place coming down the right side of the face, just notice the extent. And then each of us senses in and through to notice the sensation quality. Yeah. And for me, I already was noticing it's tingling. There's a tingling there. And it could be tingling, it could be heaviness, it could be a lightness, it could be a sense of motion or stillness, of warmth or coolness, of sharpness or smoothness, or gumminess or stickiness, bubbliness. It could be anything. And do you guys want to share what sensation you're noticing? So maybe Kallum, if you start, or Conor. Yeah, Conor, you start.
It feels like a little patch, in some sort of soft patch.
Kind of a softness there. Softness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Lovely. And now, Kallum, what do you notice?
Yeah, mine feels like someone's kind of got like a feather there, but it kind of comes right down, and then it feels a little bit electric on this side. But yeah.
Perfect. And each of us following along, you notice what you notice. And now we think to ourselves, each of us can think to ourselves, I am aware of this sensation. Whatever sensation you're noticing, this is a true thought, right? I am aware of this sensation. So as we think this thought, I am aware of this sensation, then just notice, where is the I located? Where is the I that's aware of this thought? And then just notice whatever location comes into consciousness. It might be in the body somewhere, in the head, in the chest, anywhere. It might be outside of the body somewhere. It could be around the head or around the torso. It could be close. It could be far away. Anywhere, any location is fine. And so I'll do this along. Let's see, what am I noticing? So I am aware of this sensation. Oh, this is interesting. I'm noticing the eye seems to be located out in front of of my ankles. And it's like it's shaped kind of like a cloud or almost a ovally sphere. And what are you noticing, Conor?
The eye was in the back of my head, and it was a feeling.
Okay, eye in the back of the head. And how about Kallum, for you? What do you notice?
Mine's up behind the nasal, kind of in there somewhere.
behind the nose somewhere? So
Yeah.
inside the head or behind? Inside. Okay. Behind.
Inside, kind
Yeah.
of towards the back.
Yeah. Okay, good. And so just notice how big it is and what its shape is, and then sensing in and through the space of it, notice the sensation quality of almost as if you could touch in and through the area. Then what is the sensation quality? So it could be a sense of airiness or just space. There might not be much there at all. Sometimes that's the case. Or there could be a sense of denseness or tinglingness or fogginess or dampness or dryness or warmth or cool. It really could be anything. So, and by the way, I want everyone following along with us to just know there's no better or worse answer. There's no right or wrong answer. Yeah, not even a better or worse answer. It's always exactly right how it is. And sometimes it can feel like, wow, that's really cool and wonderful. Other kinds, it's kind of like, whoa, that's kind of weird. And and if you do this practice over time, you'll encounter the full range within yourself, because that's part of what happens here is we start reclaiming our full humanness, everything about ourselves. Nothing has to be dismissed or shoved aside. So for me, when I check what's the sensation in the eye, what I'm getting this time, at first I was thinking just empty space. And then as I notice a little bit more, there's a little bit of a darkness to the space. Almost like a dark cloudiness to the space. That's what's there. So, and what are you aware of, Conor?
The eye for me is warm. It's on the warmer side.
Kind of warm. Okay, perfect. And for you, that was in the back of the head, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and it's kind of a warm thing.
Sort of where my spine meets my head, sort of at the
sort
kind
of
back
right
here.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And Kallum, how is it for you? This place behind the nose.
I just felt myself go. I just felt myself go to. It was going to that next step.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're getting ahead. Okay, that's fine. And that's totally fine. Totally good. Yes, and for everyone following along, we're going kind of quickly here. So if it doesn't make sense, just know you can learn the whole thing in the book, or you can review this session again, watch again. Basically, we're going, where's the eye located? Notice what location comes to you. There's no wrong answer. You can guess if you're not sure. You can even pretend. You can make it up. That's totally fine. And then you notice, okay, what's the size and shape of this eye? And sensing in what's the sensation quality. And it might be something like tingling. It might just be empty space. Could be a sense of cloudiness. Could be anything. Okay. So now, are we ready to go to the next step? Okay. All right. Now we've taken this sentence, I am aware of this sensation, and we've explored the sensation. We know where it's located. We know its sensation quality. So we know what that means in our experience. We found the eye. We know where it's located. We know its size and shape, its sensation quality. So we know what this is in experience. And so now we're going to explore that middle word, awareness. I am aware of this sensation. And I discovered that each individual has a unique experience of awareness if I don't guide. So I'm going to just guide us all in experiencing awareness in the way that works well for this particular process. So, and that is, by awareness, I really mean the capacity to notice, the capacity to experience. So it's that presence that exists in and through our body and in the space all around before any specific experience shows up. So we know that awareness exists through our physical body because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to notice that sensation we found a moment ago. It's that because we have awareness already there that we could go, oh, I have tingling around my ankles, or, oh, I noticed this in the back of my neck, or whatever each of you found. And so we can just pause now and just notice kind of, or maybe even savor that experience of awareness that's already present through our entire body, so that because awareness is here, if something were to bump me or nudge my left shoulder, I would automatically notice that. I wouldn't have to send my awareness there. Awareness is already there. And that's the kind of way awareness, it's this presence that's already there before an experience happens. And awareness is also pervading the space all around as well, in every direction. And we can know this because if a sound happens in one side or another, there's an automatic receiving of the sound. We don't have to send our awareness out to get it. The sound is just received easily and comfortably. So we can just experience this sense of space all around in every direction. And in our subjective experience, there's no edge or border to that. It's not like we would go, oh, if the sound was on this side of a border, I would hear it. And if it was on that other side, we can't find any border like that where we could either hear or not hear, even though we know mentally that we aren't going to hear a sound from the other side of the world. In our subjective experience, this sense of space that's all around in every direction, it has no edge or border. So it can be pleasant just to experience this awareness, this through the body and through the space all around in every direction. And then we can return to the eye that we found a moment ago. This eye, wherever you found your eye, go back to that location. Notice the sensation of the eye itself. And now we're going to do an experiment. So for me, it's that slightly dark, airy space. And for each of you, it is what it is. Noticing that sensation. Now we ask on the inside, notice what happens when this sensation of the eye is invited to open and relax in and as the fullness of awareness that is all around your throat. And then we just let that happen however it happens. Sometimes, and we don't need to track it or notice. It's fine if something significant happens. It's fine if nothing happens. It's fine if something subtle happens. And if nothing happens yet, we go back to the eye, notice the sensation of the eye itself, and then we invite, notice what happens when the sensation of the eye is invited to open and relax in and as the fullness of awareness that is all around and throughout. And then we just allow whatever happens to happen. Yeah, and we can just stay with that. Each of you can stay with that until things settle. Yeah. And then when I do this with the group, then if I get to hear from people, how did that go? How did that go? And we don't have a whole group to hear back from, right? Do we have chat where people engaged, or is it the four of us? No, three of us. We're just three.
The three of us.
We've got a few people watching.
Yeah. So what we can do is share our experience, and then I can share how I can stand in for the group, because I know what the range of answers that people have. Yeah. And so what did you guys notice? Did anything happen for you?
You want to go
I
first?
went to a deep place of calm, and
okay.
Because we're on the podcast, I probably when I dipped into absolute calm, my unconscious mind said, "Don't go too deep because you're on a podcast."
Yes.
You're live on air right now, because Cal and I, we've got years and years of we love going deep.
We could have lost you there if we in this deep calm. I don't care about the podcast anymore. I'm just enjoying this deep calm.
Correct. That's almost where I got to.
Yeah. Okay. And Kallum, do you have anything?
There was 2 times there, and these moments of familiar to me. It just hasn't happened for a very long time. So it's quite amazing actually that it felt like there was a moment where like the kind of like the duality of everything just became centered on one thing. And I felt that overwhelming sense of energy that kind of just like goes all throughout my entire body. And I felt myself pull back because I've done that before, and then all of a sudden it's 3 hours later. So I was trying to
yes. Yes, you also know.
I wanted to go, and then I was like, yeah.
And what I find is in the workshops, people start getting into this release pattern where it starts to feel like we have this capacity to both feel the amazing profoundness and be present right here in this moment. It starts to become the same thing. And it's very interesting how that happens. And I think it's easier for that to happen when we have the freedom, when we're not the podcast host who has to kind of have some semblance of maintaining a frame around what we're doing. Yeah. When you allow yourself to really go this particular way, what tends to happen is that fairly quickly, it stabilizes in this sense of peace, calm, the aliveness that you felt, Kallum, like that through the body, more presence in and through the body. It's like our energy is reclaimed, and it becomes easier to be right here now in the present moment and do whatever.
What's so exciting about this method for me is that this is a state that I've gotten to at different times in my life, but it felt like I had to follow some intuitive process to get there, and it was almost like the stars almost needed to align for it to happen. And this really feels like you've like modeled it to a T. So your different phases that you go through actually show that intuitive step that I would have normally taken, but with more conscious understanding of what it is, so I can direct it. And it happened then so fast.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to overstate it, but it's almost like you've modeled the connection to like spiritual enlightenment almost.
Thank you. I think you've stated that really well, actually, and it is interesting that when people go through this experience, whether or not they've had any spiritual training, beliefs, or interest, they start sounding a little bit like a spiritual teacher. People start revealing these wisdoms. So I really appreciate what you're saying there, because and other people have said something similar. Perhaps it's like, wow, this gives the steps to make it reliable and easy and dependable, that you can just go there and be present in this sort of way.
What was, when you gave us a suggestion to say something, was it I am aware? Is that what we said to ourselves?
The first step, the sentence was, I am aware of this sensation.
Yes. When I said that to myself, my every hair on my body felt like it stood up.
Interesting. It's like your consciousness was really ready. I think, and that kind of, it does matter. You said, does it matter if something about the person's state coming in? The more someone is really stepping forward to engage, the more they tend to find an easy way into getting the benefits. And what you just described is an example of that, I think, and what Kallum also described. And I just want to bow to that. I just really respect the way you both show up and are present to just explore. It's really beautiful.
We love it. Thank you very much.
And so to come back.
I want to add something too, because I would like to make space for, in any group of any size, there's always some here's the range of responses. Some people go, wow, that was profound. I got this big shift and blah, blah, blah. Some people even describe how this lasts into their life. They write to me a week later and go, wow, this is what's happening now. For other people, they notice a very subtle shift. So something positive. Often it feels like relaxation, deep relaxation, not necessarily totally profound, but a subtle relaxation. That's, and then other people, there's always a group, some people who go, nothing happened. And I just want you to know, if that happened for you, totally fine. If that happened for you, it's more than fine. It was the perfect thing. Because sometimes for each of us, the perfect thing is for nothing to happen. And in the training, I get into this, what this means we need to do. It means there's a message that we need to tune into better to your system and where you are right now, and to use that as our guide. And there are specific steps, specific ways to do that where we can do that.
Nice.
Oftentimes what's needed is the very next steps that are, you can find them in, not everybody's going to be able to join me in the live online class. It's happening on November 4th.
Can we share that? So how would someone get in contact with you, and where do they go to do more of this? If you want to join the
live online class, it starts on November 4th. It's 3-hour blocks on Tuesdays and Saturdays. You find it at andreasnlp.com. Look under trainings and look under wholeness work. And you'll find the live online level 1 training. If you can't figure it out, you get to that website and you go, this is confusing, then click the contact us form and just ask, tell my team what you want, and they'll help you find it.
Awesome. So it's Andreas NLP, Andreas NLP. Is it .com?
Yes, that's exactly it. You can find there. You can find the wholeness work training. If you happen to be interested in jumping into core transformation, we do have a training that starts next Friday, just over a week from today. I think it's the 24th, with Connirae Andreas, also a very, very good workshop. So, and now I wanted to say though, not everyone can join us, and the timing is for you in Australia, the middle of the night. I apologize. I wish we could do a little time distortion or something, time travel, and have it in a reasonable hour for you. It's at 10 a.m. Denver time, which is sometime in the middle of the night for you guys.
It would be, yeah. Is that mountain time? Are you in mountain time?
Mountain time.
Yes, we're on mountain time, Denver, Colorado time. So it's in Europe. For those in Europe, it's in the evenings, late afternoon and evening. For the United States, it's in the morning to the afternoon, depending on where you are. But to Australia and Asia, again, my apologies, it's totally off kilter. I do have a few people joining anyway for the recordings. You're welcome to do that if you want to, but I'm just warning you about the time. And another way to get access to the material, if this sounds interesting,
buy the book.
The book. You can start that right now. And the book has, I did my best to put everything in it, so I'm not holding back and saying, get the good stuff in the training. It's going to be easier to learn in the training because you've got live coaches there, people who are skilled to help you every step of the way. But the material is here. So you can find it there in this book. Wonderful. And I may have, if you get on our email list, we may have one of my top trainers may be doing a training on Australia time, Asia time, India time, to have a training that's on that is for in the future. And if you get on my email list, you'll learn about those kind of things.
All right. Awesome. Afternoon. You're so Denver, Colorado. If you just planting the seed now, if you ran one from about 4 p.m. in the afternoon till 7 p.m., that would get the morning of Australia.
Okay. I trust you.
Yeah. It's not too crazy.
I'm going to give my brain a break. And so it's 5:30 here for me right now, 5:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And it's
10:30 a.m. our time.
10:30 a.m. So you guys can do the math. If it's or just use a time zone converter. That's what I do. I don't want to take the chance I make a mistake.
That's good.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cal, any
So,
I'm
what
I'm still part of me still.
if you're one of the people who got 0 results, I just want to say, then that often means what you need is the next exercise, the very next exercise, where we find what I call the chain of eyes, and then when we find the authority structures and the what's missing structures, these are the next pieces. All of this is in the book, and it is in the training.
Amazing.
Well, Connirae, it has
What do
been
you think? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Callum's in a trance. Callum's still there. Stay there, buddy.
I'm hanging to get off the podcast so I can go out and do that again. So sorry if I'm not meaning to be offensive. That was pretty special.
Connirae,
sometimes I'm so glad you guys, went in it so wholeheartedly, even holding the container for our podcast, our conversation together.
you bet. I'm glad we did it at the end, because if we did this at the beginning of the podcast, it would have been dribble by now.
You might have lost all your other questions. Yeah. Well, one thing I'd like to share is sometimes people ask, how does that make sense? I found the eye, I invited, how does that change anything? What's the big deal about finding and dissolving the eye? And what I like to say, there is more about that in the book. I go into it more in the class, but the short truth about that is when we find the eye that we have inside, this is our unconscious experience of ourself, of who we are. And it's actually quite a limited, it's our unconscious experience of self is actually, it's not our true self, it's a limited self. Because if I go, okay, who are you really? You wouldn't say, oh, I'm this like small round thing in my neck, or I'm this thing crawling down the side of my face, you wouldn't say, and I wouldn't say, oh, I'm this cloud out in front of my ankles. That would be a strange idea of who I am.
What a shift.
So what shifts then is we take that limited self structure and we invite it to melt back into the whole of awareness, which is closer to the fullness of who we are. That brings all of our nervous system back online. When we experience ourselves living out of a limited eye, a small eye somewhere, that contains limiting beliefs about ourselves, about the world. It contains tension, literally tension, and when we invite it to relax, those limiting beliefs just melt away and we're just more present without having to impose beliefs on reality.
You can be more.
Yeah.
That's
so
how
people end up describing how, people describe various versions of, I feel more present, I feel more embodied, I feel like it's easier to go through my life, less stress, I have a way of dealing with stress. The interesting thing is many people also describe enhanced creativity and problem-solving ability. So
I could imagine the enhanced creativity. Yeah.
Quite interesting, because I think, in the times we're in and what we face as a global community right now, there are a lot of challenges. And the more we can be present with our full being to be part of whatever solutions, the better.
Yeah.
I think we can really use this kind of thing.
You've broken a record. I think this is one of the longest, if not the longest podcast we've done. So congratulations. We'll have all of your details.
Maybe I better stop talking.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean,
this was probably long enough.
We wouldn't still be here if we didn't love everything that was coming out of your mouth. We're going to have all of your details in the description of the YouTube clip. So if you are watching along on YouTube, all of the information to get in touch with Connirae will be in the show notes.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Connirae, and really feel honored that you were able to share this time with us. And and taking us through that process and the viewers through the process. And we highly encourage, we know a lot of NLP practitioners right through to master trainers. Reach out to Connirae and her team for a conversation. I feel there's some amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you. It's been my treat to meet each of you. Now I feel connected with you. Your name, that's the name of your podcast, and I feel that connection now with you too. I'm glad for that. And thank you again. Thank you so much for inviting me, welcoming me into your podcast community.
Thank you,
Connirae.
Thank you very much for watching the Unplugged podcast with Kallum and Conor from Connect Coaching. Hope you loved this guest this week as much as we did. Cal?
What we wanted to remind you of is that if you wanted to steal our forever business model, which is perfect for all sorts of businesses around the world to start to build extra revenue in your business right away, get instant access by clicking on the description and going into the link below, watching the 9-minute video where we unpack everything. See you next time.